She's leaving to live with her biological father, my wife said, not even looking at me as she cut her chicken. That's it. That's how the sentence landed. Just slipped out of her mouth, like she was commenting on the weather. No warning, no discussion, no apology. Just the clink of her fork, the scratch of the knife against porcelain, and then that sentence. I didn't react. Not visibly. I didn't flip the table or throw my wine glass. I just kept chewing. Slowly. Mechanically. Like my body was going through the motions while my brain lagged 20 seconds behind, trying to translate what I'd just heard into a language that made sense. Why was too dignified a question. What would have made me sound surprised. So I stayed quiet. She glanced up, finally, and I caught that look. That smug, patient expression she wore when she thought she was handling something delicately. I'd seen that look when she told me we were refinancing the house in just her name for simplicity. I'd seen it when she moved her daughter to private school without telling me. And now here it was again, like a poker dealer sliding over her final card. She says it'll be better for her senior year, she added, in a tone so casual it made my spine itch. He's got more space now. And they're bonding. It's probably time. Bonding. That's what we're calling it now. After 17 years of me paying the tuition, the food, the summer camps, the orthodontist. After all the early mornings spent driving her to swim meets and sitting in bleachers with numb thighs and fake smiles, clapping like a trained seal because you're not really her dad. After coaching her college essay to perfection, writing checks the size of car payments each month, and hearing her call me just Steve to her friends. Bonding. I nodded once. That's all. I didn't ask follow-up questions. Didn't ask who made the decision. Didn't ask when she was leaving. I just nodded. Then I went back to my dinner and focused on the salt in the chicken. She'd used the wrong kind again. Flaked sea salt instead of kosher. But I didn't say anything. I didn't have the energy to fix anything else at that table. Then came the second dagger. You'll keep paying, right? Just for continuity. For continuity. Like I was a monthly subscription. Like my role in their lives had an auto-renewal checkbox they forgot to uncheck. Of course, she added quickly, mistaking my silence for reluctance. We've built everything around your support. It'd be chaos if that stopped now. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a conversation. This was a press release. She wasn't informing me out of respect. She was setting the stage. The decision had been made, probably weeks ago, maybe longer. I was just the last fool to be notified. So I finished my wine, cleared my plate, placed it gently in the dishwasher, and wiped the counter. She stayed at the table, scrolling through her phone like she was checking sports scores. I watched her for a long moment, really watched her. Her posture, her face, the absence of regret. And then I did something that startled even me. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled down the gray Samsonite suitcase I hadn't touched since my last work trip. It still smelled faintly of stale hotel carpet and dry cleaning. I packed only what I needed, 3 shirts, a pair of jeans, my laptop, my passport. Left the socks and ties. Left the running shoes I never used. Left the cufflinks she gave me on our 5th anniversary with our initials engraved in silver. Left everything that might confuse the message. Then I walked into the kitchen, took my keyring, and slipped the house key off. I placed it quietly on the counter next to the fruit bowl. One peach inside. Soft. Starting to rot. She looked up when I grabbed my jacket. Where are you going? I didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed. Seriously, Steve. What's with the dramatics? I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I gave her a smile. Not sarcastic. Not cruel. Just still. Then I opened the front door and stepped out into the night. No plan. No destination. But the weight that fell off my shoulders when the door clicked shut behind me, it didn't feel like grief. It felt like relief. The cabin was buried deep in the pines, just past a narrow bridge that moaned under the weight of even a small car. A faded sign at the front said Fisher's Ridge, though there hadn't been any fishermen here since dial-up internet. It was off-season. No kids yelling by the lake. No jet skis. Just squirrels, fog, and a barely functional kerosene heater that ticked every time it exhaled warmth. Perfect. I didn't unpack. Didn't light a fire. I slid my laptop from the case, cracked it open, and connected to the cabin's barely there Wi-Fi. First, the university. I typed slowly, not from hesitation, but out of respect. Respect for the moment. The billing system took its sweet time loading, that circle spinning like it knew something was ending. And when it did, there it was. My Visa card, ending in 1094, listed under primary billing source. I stared at that number like it had betrayed me. That card had been there since freshman year. I remembered entering it the first time, after she cried because her housing portal was glitching and she didn't want to lose her preferred dorm. I remembered thinking, this is what fathers do. Step or not. You step in. Now, I clicked remove. Just like that, it was gone. No confirmation email. No thank you for your years of service. Just a void where my money used to flow. Next, health insurance. She was listed as a dependent under the family plan I'd maintained even after my wife quit her job to be more present. I knew the HR system like the back of my hand. Clicked through the tabs until I found her name. There it was, Lila May, DOB, July 18, 2004. Status, active. I hovered over the Remove Dependent button for a long time. Not out of guilt, out of precision. Because this wasn't rage. Rage burns out. This was something colder, quieter. The kind of decision you make like turning off a faucet, slowly, firmly, with a soft click at the end. I pressed it. Confirmation. Are you sure you want to remove this dependent from coverage? Yes. I watched the little wheel spin, and just like that, no more deductible. No more copays on my dime. No more emergency room bills routed through my account. Then came the $529 plan. I'd set it up before she even picked a college, when she was still thinking she'd go to a state school and major in marine biology. She ended up choosing marketing, which is fine, I guess, if you're planning to brand yourself while sinking people financially. Logging in took longer, multi-factor authentication, phone call, verification code. But when I got in, the numbers sat there like obedient soldiers. $18,432.14 remaining. Not much, but enough to matter. Enough for next semester, maybe part of spring. I clicked, distribute funds. Destination, my personal brokerage. Use, reallocation. They'd never find the paperwork. It was under a trust name, with the contact address pointing to an old P.O. box I never closed. The $529 drained in 60 seconds. Just a line on a spreadsheet somewhere. She'd never even know it was gone. There was one more step. I opened a text document I'd been keeping quietly. Nothing dramatic, just a list of every login, every payment portal, every subscription tied to either of them. iCloud family account. Removed. Spotify premium plan. Cancelled. Grocery store loyalty card. Doesn't sound like much until you realize they won't be getting discounts without my phone number at checkout. I let the wires snap one by one. I didn't send a warning. Didn't make a post. Didn't slam doors. There was no monologue, no emotional send-off. Only silence. The kind that makes people squint at their bank statement and wonder if the error is temporary. I closed the laptop and stepped outside. The air was piney and wet. I lit a cigarette, even though I hadn't smoked in years, and watched the smoke drift sideways. From 3 states away, I was ghosting them financially. Not out of cruelty. Out of necessity. They had always mistaken my support for obedience. Let them find out the difference the hard way. He left like a wounded puppy, she said, loud enough for her sister to hear from the kitchen. Didn't even raise his voice. Just walked out like a sad little man who finally realized he couldn't win. There was laughter. Soft at first, then fuller, the kind that bubbles out when someone believes the hard part is over. My name didn't come up again. Just he, like I'd already been reduced to a footnote in their fresh start. I wasn't there, obviously, but I knew exactly how that conversation went. It was Thursday night, 5 days since I walked out. The house looked the same from the outside, but inside, arrogance was redecorating. She poured wine into those stupid, oversized glasses she got on clearance at HomeGoods and tossed her hair like she was 20 again. The sister, Monica, the one with 3 divorces and a manifestation tattoo, snorted into her glass. He'll keep paying. He always does. Of course I would. That's what men like me are good for, right? Stability. Predictability. The ever-present backstop. We don't slam doors. We don't take the kids away. We don't change the locks or drain the accounts. We just keep showing up with a check and a weak smile. That's the version of me they built in their heads. That's the version they counted on. Lila, my stepdaughter, was part of the performance too. She posted a photo the next morning on Instagram. Her and him. The biological father. David something. The one who skipped child support for 5 years and suddenly became dad of the year the moment she turned 17 and started talking about NYU. They stood on a porch, holding up a brass key between them like they'd just closed on a dream. Caption, New beginnings, old key, 2 hearts. He looked sunburned and overdressed in a polo shirt he probably hadn't unbuttoned since 2010. She wore those overpriced boots I'd bought her last Christmas. The smile on her face was real, I'll give her that. Real and oblivious. What the photo didn't show was the unopened tuition invoice still sitting on the table back at home. Fat envelope, return address from the university's billing office, marked time sensitive. It had arrived 3 days ago. She'd seen it, picked it up, probably even shook it to see if there was a check inside. But she hadn't opened it. Because why would she? In her mind, the next chapter had already started. She had her real dad now. The guy who used to send her Facebook birthday messages and talk about starting a podcast. The man who didn't know her GPA, her major, or how many cavities she'd had. But he had a key and a porch, and apparently, that was enough. The smugness was infectious. My wife posted her own version of the narrative the next day. One of those vague, when one chapter closes, another begins, quotes pasted over a blurry photo of the sun rising above their backyard. The caption was a paragraph about healing, trusting the universe, and letting go of energies that no longer align. My energy, apparently. None of them noticed what was missing. The car insurance auto payment had quietly bounced. She hadn't checked the app yet, probably assumed it was a glitch. The shared Netflix account logged out. Their grocery delivery service emailed her that her card had been declined. The first tuition deadline passed without confirmation of funds. But they didn't look twice. Because I always pay. Because I always show up. Because I never leave. So they laughed, drank, toasted their new beginnings, not realizing that every single wire they'd built their fantasy on had already been cut. Not by accident, not out of spite, just methodically, like trimming the roots of a vine that never stopped crawling. They still thought I was the wounded puppy. But puppies don't walk away with the paperwork. And wolves don't bark when they're done. They disappear into the woods and wait. It started with a little red notification bubble. Tuesday morning, Lila rolled over in her new bedroom. Pastel walls, fairy lights, a shelf of untouched books, and checked her phone like any college student does. Notifications, group chats, emails. One subject line made her pause. Urgent. Financial aid status pending review. She tapped it with her thumb, still half asleep. The email was from the Dean of Enrollment Services. Cold, sterile language. Your current financial aid package is in danger of suspension due to missing or incomplete parental verification documentation. Please log into the portal and complete all outstanding forms by Friday to avoid disruption of enrollment. She sat up. She read it again. Then again. Dad, she called. From down the hallway, a grunt. Her biological father, the great savior with his stupid tribal tattoo and boat shoes, was still asleep. Probably hungover from last night's bonding margaritas. She climbed out of bed, opened her laptop, and logged into the school portal. Pending. Parental verification, not received. But she remembered Steve. No, not Steve. The man who used to pay, handling all of that. She clicked into the tuition section. Amount due, $14,936. Due date, 3 days ago. That didn't make sense. It was supposed to be automatic. Covered. Like it always had been. Back at her old house. Her mother was wiping down the kitchen island with lavender-scented cleaner when the phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, saw the sender, University Billing Office, and let it go to voicemail. She assumed it was a courtesy reminder. Nothing to worry about. She poured a second cup of coffee and opened her banking app. That's when she saw the second blow. Joint credit card. Declined transaction at Drive Elite Car Services. The same service leasing the BMW she'd convinced Steve to co-sign for last year. The one she told him was essential for Lila's safety on campus. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Some glitch. So she opened the app, tried to log into the vehicle's maintenance portal to check the service record. Access denied. She tried again. Still locked out. Another notification popped up on her screen. Payment failure. Immediate action required. She blinked. Then called the number listed. After waiting on hold for 17 minutes, she finally got through. Yes, ma'am. The rep said, politely robotic. Your payment was declined. The primary card on file was removed, and the backup failed due to insufficient funds. There's been a mistake. My husband handles all that. I'm showing the account holder removed himself from the billing profile last week. Do you have another method of payment? She hung up. Her pulse had started tapping just beneath her left eye. A familiar twitch she hadn't felt since the refinancing panic 2 years ago. Wednesday night, Lila received a second email. Different tone. Your scholarship eligibility has been suspended due to non-compliance with documentation requirements. Reinstatement is not guaranteed. The word suspended landed like a slap. She tried calling the dean's office. Straight to voicemail. Left a message. Tried again. No answer. She called her mom. He's probably just slow to submit something, her mom said. He always drags his feet. Can you call him? There was a pause. Her mother didn't say, I don't know where he is. She didn't say, He left no contact. Instead, she said, "Don't panic. I'll handle it." But panic was already sinking in. By Thursday morning, the campus Office of Financial Services had blocked her portal login. The BMW's GPS system was disabled. She couldn't access her class schedule. Emails went unanswered. She called her biological father. Straight to voicemail. She texted, "Hey, can you help cover this while Steve gets his stuff together?" No response. An hour later, she tried again. "It's serious. My account's locked. Read." No reply. Her mother tried calling him too. 10 times. No answer. The man who bragged about finally stepping up at Sunday dinner last month was now nowhere to be found. It wasn't just one thing failing. It was layers. Silent layers that had always been there. Unseen, unnoticed, suddenly disintegrating beneath their feet. The problem wasn't the debt. The problem was the scaffolding they assumed would always hold. And the man who used to hold it? He wasn't returning calls either. The knock came at 6:42 a.m. on a foggy Friday. 2 sharp raps. Then silence. Lila peeked through the blinds of her sorority bedroom, half asleep and hoping it was just a delivery. Instead, she saw a flatbed tow truck idling quietly in the driveway. A man in a navy windbreaker stepped out, clipboard in hand, already walking toward her silver BMW. The one with the sunroof. The one Steve, no, the old guy, had co-signed for. She sprinted down barefoot, heart hammering, hoodie barely zipped. "Wait, that's my car," she shouted, waving her phone like it was some kind of magical badge. The man didn't look up. "Plate ends in 241, he asked. "Yes, but there's a mistake." "My dad." "Not a mistake," he interrupted calmly, snapping a photo of the rear license plate. "Payments bounced. Account closed. Orders came from headquarters." She called her mom before the back tires even left the driveway. "They took my car," she said, voice cracking. There was a pause on the other end. Then the sound of rustling papers. "Damn it," her mother hissed. "Okay, I'll call your father." She didn't specify which one. It was only later, when she had her 3rd glass of wine and her 10th missed call, that she dialed David, the biological one, and put it on speaker. "Hey," she said, trying to sound light. "So we've hit a little hiccup." He cut her off immediately. "I wasn't expecting all this stuff to come due so fast." "What does that mean?" she asked, voice tightening. "Just my accounts are tied up. Legal stuff. Investments. You know how it is." "No, David. I don't know how it is," she snapped. "You said you could help." "I didn't say when," he muttered, almost defensively. "I thought Steve would still be covering things until we figured it out." "We figured it out? Are you serious? You said you were stepping up." "I am, but I didn't sign up to inherit a full-blown financial plan overnight. I thought this was more emotional support, not a mortgage worth of tuition and vehicles." "Emotional support." She hung up on him. Then she opened the safe. It was a little metal lockbox, hidden behind a row of untouched cookbooks and expired checks. She hadn't touched it in months, maybe years. Steve used to handle everything inside. Passwords, bank documents, trust fund records, access codes. Now, as she flicked through the stack of documents, panic rose in her throat. She tried the main checking account, denied. Tried the retirement backup, locked. Tried the joint brokerage account, not found. Even the emergency savings fund she assumed still had her portion, and it came up with a balance of $23.16 and a note. Authorized signer removed. Steve had scrubbed himself clean. Surgically. Nothing messy. No dramatic deletions. Just absence. Like a program uninstalled. She tried reaching the school again. The Office of Financial Aid, Enrollment Services, even the registrar. Every time. "Unfortunately, until the balance is paid in full, we cannot proceed." "Can I speak with someone directly?" she asked, voice shaking. "I'm sorry, ma'am. All discussions regarding tuition require a verified account holder. But I'm the student." And the account holder was removed. Every call ended the same. A closed loop. A door with no handle on her side. That evening, Lila sat in a plastic lawn chair behind the sorority house. The sun had dipped below the trees. Her phone battery hovered at 12%, but she didn't plug it in. Didn't text. Didn't scroll. Instead, she stared at the curb where her car had once been and whispered, "What now?" Her mother sat across from her. Slumped. Silent. No whine. No answers. Just a glazed-over look that only people with no cards left to play can wear. "I thought he'd never walk away," she finally said. Lila didn't respond. She was still trying to understand something her age group wasn't built to process. The idea that some people, some men, don't rage when betrayed. They don't explode. They don't grovel for relevance. They just leave. Completely. And when they do, it's not a clean break. It's 1,000 systems slowly collapsing in on themselves. It's watching every shortcut, every assumption, every he always will crumble into a wall of unanswered emails and final notices. There was no backup plan, because the man they abandoned wasn't a placeholder. He was the entire foundation. And now, they were standing in the ruins. It started with voicemails. Dozens of them. First, the polite ones, measured, slightly urgent, still clinging to the belief that he was just processing emotions. Then the guilt-tripping ones. The ones filled with long sighs and words like unfair, we're family, you raised her. Then came the begging. Flat out, raw desperation. Steve, please. Just call back. We can talk this out. Steve, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why you're being like this. Steve, if you're punishing us, okay, you've made your point. But you can't just abandon her like this. Each one landed in the same digital graveyard. He never blocked them. That would have been merciful, clean, final, obvious. No, he let the messages through. Let them pile up like snow on an empty porch. No response. No delivery receipts. Just a void. Lila tried email. The personal one bounced. Mailbox not found. The work one. It still existed, but the auto-response was gone. No, out of office. No, I'll get back to you. Just silence. Her mom tried Facebook. His profile was there, but empty. No posts. No new pictures. No visible activity. Comments from friends asking, hey, where'd you go? Left unanswered. His last post was from a year ago, a blurry photo of a coffee mug and a sunrise with the caption, clean slate. Lila stared at that photo for a long time, wondered if it had been a warning. She tried LinkedIn. Nothing updated. No new position. No new skills. Just the same professional headshot and job title, Director of Operations, Hendrick and Rowe. So her mother drove there. She pulled into the business park with her heart hammering, hair still wet from a panic shower, and her phone already dialing his number again. The building hadn't changed. Same sandstone brick, same glass entry doors. She knew the code. Walked in, heels clicking down the tile. Except the office was gone. Suite 204 was now occupied by a dental supply startup. The receptionist looked up as she peered in. Oh, are you looking for the engineering firm? They moved out months ago. Do you know where they went? She smiled apologetically. No idea. Sorry. Lila tried texting again. Please. I messed up. Please help. Nothing. Not even a delivered tag. She checked her own settings, then his. Maybe he changed numbers? Maybe his phone was off? She tried WhatsApp. Signal. Telegram. Silence. Her mom texted something longer. I don't know where we went wrong, but this can't be how it ends. You were her father longer than he ever was. I know you're hurt, but this is too much. Call me. Please. Still nothing. The realization didn't hit all at once. It arrived in small moments. Like when she tried to recover an old login and realized the backup email was his. Or when she attempted to forward his old tax documents to the financial office, only to get a system error, account disabled by administrator. Or when they checked the cabin he'd mentioned years ago, the one in upstate New York where he used to go to clear his head, and found the Airbnb listing had been pulled, the contact number scrubbed. It was like watching a ghost slowly erase its footprints. Lila sat at the dining table that night, same table where he once spent weekends helping her study for chemistry. She used to roll her eyes when he'd quiz her with flashcards. Now she stared at her phone, willing it to ring. I don't think he's coming back, she whispered. Her mother looked up. He's just angry. He needs time. No, he's gone. Not physically. Not legally. Something deeper. He hadn't disappeared. He'd disengaged. There were no doors left open. No strings to pull. No breadcrumbs to follow. It was like waking up in a house that looked exactly the same, but finding that all the walls were painted on. Hollow. Stage props. They'd spent so long assuming he'd always be there, just a text away, a check away, a guilt trip away, that they never imagined a version of him that simply opted out. But that's exactly what he'd done. Not in anger. Not in vengeance. In precision. He hadn't ghosted them. He'd rewritten the story without them in it. The call came on a Tuesday morning, right as Lila was trying to reset her student portal password for the 15th time. Her mother's phone buzzed on the counter beside her coffee cup, and when she saw the caller ID, University Office of Enrollment, her breath caught. Answer it, Lila whispered. Her mother nodded, flicked the screen, and put it on speaker. Hello? She said, trying to sound composed. Good morning. This is Dean Halvorson from the Office of Academic Affairs. I'm calling in regard to your daughter's enrollment complications. We've attempted to reach the primary financial account holder, Mr. Carson, multiple times, but he won't answer," her mother interrupted. "We've been trying, too. He's taking some space." There was a pause on the other end. Then the dean spoke carefully. "Is there any alternative way we could get in touch with him directly? The university requires confirmation or reassignment of financial responsibility before we can release the hold on her classes. Without a completed verification form or direct payment, her housing and course registration remain suspended." Look, I don't have a way to reach him either," she admitted. "He's not answering." Dean Halvorson cleared his throat. "Would you like me to try now? We could conference him in, if that would help clarify things." She blinked, then nodded, realizing he couldn't see her. "Yes, please." Click. A soft beep. Then the muted ring of an outbound call. Lila didn't breathe. She stood frozen behind the island, arms wrapped around herself like she could hold her world together if she just squeezed tight enough. On the third ring, the call connected. "Hello," said a voice. Calm, measured, familiar. Her mother hesitated, then found her voice. "Steve, this is Dean Halvorson. He's calling about Lila's enrollment." Another pause. Then the dean stepped in. "Mr. Carson, I appreciate your time. We've been trying to reach you regarding your daughter's financial aid and academic status. There are urgent verifications we need signed in order to—" "I'm not her father," Steve said. Silence. Even the ambient hum of the call seemed to stop. The dean stammered. Well, sir, I understand, but you're listed as the financial sponsor on." "I'm not her father," he repeated, this time slower. "I was a sponsor. I'm not anymore." And then click. Call ended. The screen dimmed. Lila didn't scream, didn't move. Her face crumpled like paper. It wasn't loud or dramatic. Just a soft, broken breath, like air escaping a slashed tire. Her legs folded beneath her, and she sank to the tile floor, hands over her face, shaking. Her mother stood still. No words. No plan. The reality of it was finally setting in. Not just that the money was gone, or the support, or even the tuition, but that he was gone. Entirely. Not mad. Not lashing out. Not demanding apologies or public humiliation. Just absent. Detached in the most terrifying way, completely. She knelt beside her daughter, unsure whether to hold her or apologize. Unsure whether either would matter. Because there it was. Not a legal severance. Not an emotional outburst. A statement. One that couldn't be undone. "I'm not her father." And for the first time since they had orchestrated this new beginning, they understood there was no version of this where he returned. No compromise. No forgiveness. No second act. The line had been drawn. And this time, it would not be crossed. It started with a ping on Lila's phone. A DM from someone she barely knew. Jessica from her freshman orientation group. The message was short. "Hey, is this about you?" and included a link. She tapped it. Read it. r/college drama. The post had gone up 4 hours earlier and was already sitting at nearly 12,000 upvotes, with a comment thread so long it had to be collapsed. The title punched like a fist. "Girl dumps stepdad after he pays for everything. Now she's broke. Karma." She blinked. Froze. The body of the post was short, too short to be anything but real. Apparently, she chose to move in with her real dad senior year after her stepdad covered her entire college so far. Guess what? Stepdad pieced out. Car repossessed. Tuition unpaid. Financial aid revoked. Schools threatening to drop her. Real dad is broke. Stepdad won't return their calls. Now they're panicking. The drama is unreal. Anyone else heard about this? No names. No locations. But the details were too precise to be coincidence. Lila stared at the screen as if she could will it into being about someone else. But the comments were already rolling in. Stepdad did nothing wrong. Actions have consequences. Welcome to adulthood. If this is true, she deserves it. Cold, but fair. Wonder how many vacations they took on his dime. She refreshed the page. The upvote count ticked higher. There were screenshots circulating now, nothing directly identifying her, but close enough. Someone had found her New Beginnings post from last week. Another found the Instagram of her holding the key with her biological father, caption blurred but familiar. The dots weren't hard to connect. That night, one of her roommates, Becca, barely made eye contact when she walked in. The others avoided the living room entirely. At dinner, no one invited her to sit. By morning, she'd been removed from the group chat for the sorority's spring retreat. The same retreat she'd planned for weeks. A quiet unfollowing started to ripple through her feed. No one said anything directly. No insults. No arguments. Just digital silence. And when her name came up in class, it came with sideways glances and the kind of forced politeness that means, we know, but we're pretending we don't. Her own friends, people she'd laughed with, partied with, leaned on. They vanished not with fury, but with quiet judgment. Because in their minds, she hadn't just been abandoned. She'd been revealed. The image she'd spent years cultivating, of the cool, composed, independent girl with the chill stepdad and the doting bio dad, was falling apart like wet tissue in a rainstorm. Worse than being broke was being visible. Everyone saw the collapse. Someone posted a meme under the thread. When you fire the employee that built the company and expect the intern to run it. Image, a burning office and a guy sipping coffee watching it collapse. The top comment? This wins the internet today. Her mom didn't understand the gravity of it at first. She still thought this could be fixed with a few calls, a strongly worded email, maybe a loan. But Lila knew better. This wasn't just financial anymore. It was reputational. The campus was a fishbowl. Every whisper amplified. Every smirk a knife. Professors gave her tight, professional smiles. Advisors took twice as long to review her file. Even her biology lab partner, who once flirted shamelessly, asked to be reassigned. The worst part? She couldn't scream back. She couldn't post a clarification. Couldn't rage publicly. Because she had left the man who supported her. She had mocked him in DMs she assumed were private. She had tagged her biological father in photos meant to sting. And now? Now she was a headline. A parable. A cautionary tale wrapped in emojis and Reddit gold. The silence from Steve, Mr. Carson, was no longer just financial. It was social, symbolic. His absence wasn't just felt, it was discussed. He didn't need to respond. The internet was doing it for him. The voice note came in at 1:17 a.m. It was nearly 4 minutes long. No intro, no filter, just a breathless stream of crying, whispering, and clumsy regret. She must have recorded it curled under a blanket somewhere, phone pressed to her chest, hoping the dark would hide the sound of her shame. Steve, I don't even know if you'll listen to this, but I need you to know. I'm sorry. I messed up. I don't know what I thought. I was stupid. I thought I was doing the right thing, and I didn't see what you were actually doing for me. Everything was you. It was always you. There was a pause, broken by a hiccup. She tried to swallow her sobs. Failed. I told myself you'd still be there. Even when I left. Even when I said those things. I thought you were just soft. Predictable. I thought I could always count on you, and it would never change. I didn't know that people like you can walk away and mean it. Another pause. I keep thinking about the day you taught me how to parallel park. You spent 2 hours in the rain with me. I was such a brat. I screamed at you. And you just stood there in the rain, soaking wet, trying to help. I didn't say thank you. Click. He didn't press play. Didn't need to. The preview alone told him everything. 3 hours later, a second message came in. This time from the wife. Subject line, please. Just talk to me. No attachments. No emojis. Just a wall of text. She rambled about the past, about the early years, the sacrifices, the miscommunications. She blamed stress. Blamed hormones. Blamed the new age therapist who convinced her clean slates required physical exits. She blamed David. Briefly, then the blame shifted. You've made your point, she wrote. You've punished us enough. Like it was a game. Like he was a parent withholding dessert. She begged for one conversation. Just coffee, she said. To reset. You're not a monster. I know you're not. So why are you acting like one now? No reply. No read receipt. She sent 3 follow-ups over the next 2 days. Each shorter. Each more frantic. The final one simply said, please. Meanwhile, Steve sat on a rocky cliff along the northern coast, boots in the gravel, coffee mug nestled between his palms. The sky was just starting to change, gray fading to lavender, a smear of orange bleeding through the clouds like watercolor. Waves rolled in slow, heavy pulses against the cliffs below. The kind of sound that doesn't ask anything from you, doesn't argue, doesn't beg. Just as. His phone sat face down on the table beside him. Buzzed once, then twice. He didn't flip it over. Instead, he took a sip of coffee, black, strong, slightly burned, and leaned back in his chair. No smile. No smirk. Just stillness. Not revenge. Not satisfaction. Peace. The kind that comes only when you stop reaching for explanations. When you stop defending your exits. When you let people drown in their own tides and realize you're not obligated to toss a rope anymore. He didn't hate them. That would require energy. Investment. What he felt now was cleaner. Quieter. Nothing. And nothing, in its purest form, is what they never expected. Not rage. Not war. Not one last speech or cruel twist. Just absence. The cruelest truth of all. He didn't need them to understand. He didn't need them at all. It was the kind of office where the chairs looked comfortable, but were just stiff enough to remind you didn't belong there. She sat across from the lone officer, legs crossed tightly, her fingers worrying the gold chain around her neck. A nervous tic Steve used to tease her about. His desk was too clean, his glasses too spotless, and his eyes were too calm for the kind of conversation they were about to have. "I just need to pull some equity," she said, handing over the folder. "I own the house. Well, we own it. Or we did. I mean, he's not living there anymore. It's been ours since 2014. She tried to sound confident, practiced. The tone of someone who'd done this before, who had control. The man clicked his mouse, typing slowly, pausing every few seconds. "What's the purpose of the withdrawal?" he asked without looking up. "My daughter. Emergency tuition. The university gave us a reinstatement window, but they need payment in full." He nodded, still reading, still clicking. Then he frowned. Just slightly. A shift in posture. A red flag too small to grab at, but large enough to sense. He double-checked something. Clicked again. Then cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I'm not sure how to put this delicately." Her stomach turned. "There's no equity available to withdraw." She blinked. "What? No, that can't be right. There's no second mortgage. We've had that house over a decade." "Yes, but it was refinanced last month." Her mouth opened. No words came out. "Not just refinanced," he continued, adjusting his glasses. "It was sold." The room felt suddenly colder. "Sold to whom?" she asked, voice barely audible. He turned the screen toward her. A name, a company, a timestamp, a document trail with Steve's signature in crisp digital ink. "Sold. Transferred. Closed." Her hand gripped the armrest. "But I never signed anything. I never." "Because your name wasn't on the deed," he said gently. She froze. "No," she whispered. No. We bought that house together. You were listed on the original mortgage," he said. "But the deed itself, ownership, was solely in his name." She tried to stand, but the air felt like glue, like something was pressing her back into the chair. He'd done it. Quietly. Legally. With the kind of precision you only plan when you've been waiting for the right moment. She left the office without her folder, without her voice. She walked to the parking lot in a daze, past families and couples who still had homes, still had safety nets, still had men who paid for things without asking for applause. She sat in her car for 10 minutes before calling him. Ring. Ring. Then, "This number is no longer in service." No voicemail. No forwarding number. No leave a message. Just a digital wall. She stared at the screen. Called again. Same result. Not blocked. Not ghosted. Erased. He hadn't stormed out. Hadn't slammed the door. Hadn't posted online or gloated or told mutual friends. He had simply left. Like a tide pulling back from the shore, slow and methodical, until one day you looked up and realized you were standing alone on the rocks. No revenge. No statement. Just the full and final withdrawal of a man who gave everything and asked nothing. And when she looked around, really looked, she realized what was left. No house. No plan. No fallback. Only her daughter's name in an unpaid invoice. And the echo of a man who had once held the entire structure together with invisible hands. Until the moment he chose to let go.